everyone. Welcome to the Soulful Eclectic. I'm your host, Diana Collins, and I want to welcome you back to those who have been here and have listened to past episodes. I want to thank you for coming back. And for those who are new and just started listening, thank you for giving me some of your time and also giving my guests some of your time because they appreciate it as well as they share a part of themselves with the tribe, right? So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just want to welcome you guys back and show my appreciation and give you guys all love. So today, our episode is actually going to be with Jermaine Shoulders, who is an entrepreneur of all sorts. He is a fellow Brooklynite, so big up to Brooklyn, right? And also, he is a screenwriter. And I had the pleasure of meeting him auditioning. I was auditioning for a play of his called Shades of Violence. And so it's not out yet, so don't go looking for it. We're just in the making of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to introduce you to Jermaine because just conversation with him during that audition, I tell you guys, I'm an empath and I'm all about the energy that I feel with people, and the energy that he had, it was so positive, and he's trying to do so much for the community, with the community, and just hearing how he came up with Shades of Violence and the work he did to make it authentic was astounding. So with that, I invited him to be on the podcast, and by me inviting him to the podcast, by no means had a part in his show and his play at all. It was just me going off the conversation that we had. And then later on, a couple of weeks down the road, he reached out to me and said, I would like to have you as playing the role in that I auditioned for. So I was like, what? No way. So I will be in his feature screenplay, Shades of Violence. So that's something great. But yeah, so I want to introduce you to Jermaine Shoulders. I have Mr. Jermaine Shoulders, which I am so happy to talk to because it's like talking to an old friend from the block, honestly, which is really cool. That is dope. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's weird because we talked and yeah, wow, yeah. Anyway, so
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
absolutely, absolutely. So Mr. Jermaine Shoulders is a screenwriter, right? Did you like fall into that? Um, we
Yes,
met.
I'm a screenwriter, and director, producer, and former actor.
See, wow, there you go. And we met because I went to audition for him, and we had such a great conversation that I couldn't let it just end there. So,
Absolutely.
no, and it's funny because I asked you to come on the podcast like way before anything. It's like, I just need you to come on my podcast because we have great conversation. You have something to say. I want the community to hear it. So let's just do it.
I'm
So,
glad to be here.
thanks.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming out to audition for me as well for the project. It's going to be a heavy hitter. The role that I cast you for is very pivotal, um, and I can't wait for your audience to see it, my audience to see it, and the world to see it.
Yeah, and I am so blessed to be a part of it. I mean, honestly, when I got your email, I was in one of my acting classes because you got to keep your sharpen your skill, right? You never.
Absolutely.
So I was in one of my classes, and actually that class had a casting director coming in to view us, and which was really cool. Um, but I saw your email because I multitask with everything that I do. I don't know why. So I'm looking at my email and I'm like, holy shit, I got it. Oh, okay. All right. So,
Absolutely.
I do want to tell you, I was really um, proud to be a part of that because I really felt that that was something that speaks to me, to my soul, to everything that I'm about as a person, as a healthcare practitioner, and just as being part of the Black and Brown community. So I'm just proud to even be a part of it. And I want to put it out there, guys. He agreed to be on the podcast before he casted me, so nah.
Absolutely. Once I done the research on you as well, I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely,
See,
absolutely."
yeah, well, I'm glad. Thank you. So tell me about you because I know there are so many parts to you, even just from us um, off having conversation. You know, you're from Brooklyn, which I think that's amazing because a fellow Brooklynite. I rarely get to meet one, and to actually have someone understand and know what it is that I am talking about is mind blowing because people are like, oh, you're from Brooklyn? Oh, that part, huh? Like, whatever.
Whatever.
Right. Right. So tell me how you got on this journey of being your authentic self, leading you to where you are today.
Absolutely. Once again, thanks again for having me. Yeah, this is it's a long journey. It's a long journey. As all good journeys are. Um, Started out, my mother was a country girl. Left the South in the early '70s. Hit Brooklyn, New York, East New York, as a matter of fact. And here I come. Born in Kings County Hospital. Lived in Brooklyn. Lived in different parts of Brooklyn in my early childhood. Flatbush and East New York. Spent a lot of time in East New York, in the pink houses up and down Linden Boulevard as a child. At age 5 or so, had a little situation in Brooklyn. Someone broke into our apartment over on Parkford and Bedside. Um, with Bedford and Parkside. And right on the corner, there's a building there. Used to be a elementary school, a daycare, but it's now. The last time I saw it, it was some kind of community center. But yeah, so we left there. We left Brooklyn after that. My mother met a guy, and we moved to the Bronx.
Mm.
I was raised from age 5 to we left New York City in the Bronx, in the Soundview section of the Bronx. So, I was that kid that spent time on the trains, time in the park, and
Lucky
was a
you.
decent student, but yeah, I lived a double life, and here's where the journey started. One day I was looking at TV, and I was fascinated with television as a child, like most of us were. TV raised us in the 80s, some of us, because we were latchkey kids.
Right.
We were what we call latchkey kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. For those of you,
the latchkey kids.
for those who don't know what a latchkey kid is, it's those kids whose mom said, "Take the key, you take your behind straight home. Once you get in the house, you lock the door behind you. Don't answer the door. Don't answer my phone. Do your homework, eat lunch, and I'll see you when I get home."
Yep, yep. And you were all of 7, 8 years old.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So luckily in my neighborhood, the schools are right there. So my mother felt more comfortable. And she always said I had good sense, so she didn't worry about me too much.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it, but she saw it. So okay, mom. But so the double life started, man. And I told her one day, I said, I was watching a television movie, and it had a bunch of kids in it. Don't know if you remember, it was called Bugsy Malone.
Yes.
With, Scott Baio, and when they were all children, and they were reacting this mobster movie.
Yes.
And shooting each other with pop guns and stuff like that, kid stuff. And I was just the ending really got me because everybody at the end they were singing some song, looking at the camera, singing and just being kids. And I turned to my mother, I said, I want to do that. I want to be on TV too. And she looked at me. She said, "Are you serious? You really want to?" And I said, "Yeah." Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks later, she came home with telling me that I'm going to go to this modeling school, which also has a department to teach you how to act and do auditions and commercials. I was like, all right, cool. So I was about 10 or 11. Did that. It was Barbizon, actually.
Yeah, I remember Barbizon. I had a couple of friends who went to Barbizon.
That's right. That was another New York staple. Went to Barbizon, did the modeling thing. Didn't like it too much. But the commercial, the TV thing really got me. So did that, did the auditions. Did pretty well. Nothing really came of it until my mother came home one day and said, "I found a school for you to go to." I was like, all right, cool. But it was more than a school. She said it was a school, but it was a children's theater company.
Nice.
And the theater company was straight up old school. They basically treated us. I got my wish, the movie with the kids.
Yeah.
And how they was playing out the monsters. Well, I got the opportunity to do that on the stage.
Wow.
I was guided and taught by the legendary Rosetta Renoir.
Yes.
Who was the grandmother on the Family Matters TV show in the 90s. In the 80s, I knew her as Miss Rosetta. She walked with a cane, and that cane had thunder in it. And so, yeah, she whipped us kids from all over the city into shape, and she taught us how to be performers. And I got real homegrown training on the mass theater stage in the early 80s. So I got to perform. We did the full regalia, the makeup, the months of rehearsal, the dance training. We were all triple threats. If anyone out there knows what a triple threat is, sing, dance, and act.
Wow.
Yes, your voice can sing as well. But we all did that. And that was the best time of my life. I got that real grounded, rooted training, and I didn't realize it until I hit Hollywood in the 90s. So fast forward, I'm a kid on the block, go to school, hang out with my friends, got a deadly jump shot on the basketball court. But on Saturdays, I'm going off, in the mornings to go train and, perform on the weekends and do all of this crazy stuff that my friends had no idea about. I never told anyone. Only my neighbors, once they started seeing me going in and out, and then they started joining as well, which I didn't actually like, but that's another story. But they tell you about that in Hollywood, never bring your friends. They get the part, and you don't.
Yep.
But I was a star. So at that time, I was leading all the plays. I always had the lead roles. I was the one who, performing in every show. But we did 4 performances. We had an A and B cast. There was that many kids, so it was split up into 2 casts, 2 leads, and all the way down.
Wow.
So I always was the lead. There were no 2 leads. I was the lead. So I performed all 4 shows. And out of that, we had, people come see us, and an agent got in contact with my mother, and I actually went to go read for an agent. I got an agent. And within a few months of being with an agent, I landed my first professional gig, which was a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. Yes, I recorded it at age 13. It came out when I was about 15 during the 84 Olympics, in 88 Olympics in Los Angeles. That's when it started airing. In that 2-year period, it was known as local. So I would get, small checks, $200, $300 because it was just local. But, some commercials hit. And once a commercial hits a certain level of notoriety, it goes national. And once it goes national, that's when the big money starts rolling in. So as a high schooler, I was walking around with a bunch of money in my pocket. I was well-dressed, But I got a chance to perform, and that's when I really got the desire to. That's when I saw I was different as well, Diana, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because during that process, I was maturing. I went from the high-pitched voice at age 12, 13, and my voice was changing, things like that, insecurities. But I discovered that I was different than anybody else because I had one thing that a lot of people didn't have, which was um, just the knowledge of knowing that that's where I was supposed to be. Because I was always a quiet kid. I was the quiet kid. With my friends, I was always, quiet, Jermaine, this, that, and the third. But once I hit the stage, I just opened up. And, I improved in school, actually, because of it.
Wow.
I improved as a speaker. I improved with confidence. Like, I lost the ability to be ashamed. I lost the ability to be afraid. I lost the ability to be nervous. So all of that at that age. So fast forward to the early 90s, we moved to Los Angeles. My agent contacted my agent in LA, so that was a no-brainer. Immediately started working. Within 4 months, my first job in Los Angeles was on America's Most Wanted, and that was a very popular show at that time.
Yes.
With the reenactments. So did that. A lot of famous people came out of that. Taryn Turner and others. Taryn Turner went on to play in what was that? It was a gangster movie, but it was a classic film done by the twins. These brothers that are twins. Minister Society. He was a star. He was a star in the Minister Society. Well, he was in that episode of. So I got to know him back then. So yeah, fast forward, I was doing a bunch of sitcoms, commercials. Did a television movie with Fred Savage, the kid from Wonder Years, and what was that? The other white guy that's he just got in trouble for something that he did. I can't think of it. Kevin Spacey. So he was in that as well, and Ellen Bernstein. So I got to work with some heavyweights as an 18-year-old. So that's what I did for a while. Television commercial. Got to get really good and with the black casting directors and some of the writers on the sitcoms. So when Hollywood started to fade away for me in my early 20s, 22, 23, I had a child, my oldest daughter. I'm still with the mom today. We're married. So you're talking 94. That was my last professional gig on theater when Brandy was just getting started in the industry. I was ending my time in the industry after having been in it since 1982. So, at that point, real life took over, and I put it away, put the acting away for a while, and picked up the pen.
Right, you had to readjust.
I had to readjust because here's when you know that you know. It wouldn't let me go. No matter how many jobs I had, no matter the struggles I had in the early days with my then girlfriend, now wife, being a young couple trying to raise a child, the bite of wanting to be in the industry never left me. She was with me during those days when I was auditioning, running around. I was on Beverly Hills 90210. I was on all these different shows. She was with me during those days, so she saw me, hustle and grind back then. And I picked up the pen one day because I said, you know what, it won't leave me alone, so maybe this is something I can do. And then I recalled that I've been writing since I was 9 years old. I actually did a comic book that got me an A on a project in the 4th grade that I threw together in like 2 days. But it was the story. I couldn't draw to save my life, but it was the story that my teacher really liked, and I got an A+. It was creative. I actually made it.
Nice.
Kids today don't make stuff. I actually made it. I cut it out of cardboard, cut the paper, made it just like a comic book. And I gave it to my teacher. That wasn't even a project. It was something totally different, but that's what I gave them. And I got an A on it. So I realized I was doing that since then, and some friends I went to high school with reminded me as well, in the Bronx, at Stevenson High School. We would have a writing contest, man. Remember that? We used to see who could write the best, and I always won. And it was just paragraphs, that we would write and trade amongst each other. And we would vote on who wrote. And these are kids from the projects, and we're having writing, So, we did that, and I didn't realize So I did it real simple. Because I've been in the industry so long, I knew what scripts looked like. And because I had relationships, getting scripts was not a problem. So I would get a script, sit down and just imitate what I saw. I would watch episodes incessantly. In those days, you would watch the repeats, and I would watch the repeats, and I would watch the repeat, over and over and over again. And you had VHS, so you would record, and then I would just watch the entire season of a show that I liked, and then use the format that I saw, not knowing what I was doing at the time, just using the format that I saw, and apply the story to it. And, at the time, I let my girlfriend read it, and she was like, "This is really good." And I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, you don't know." So I just kept.
Why don't y'all trust our opinion?
Well, you know what? Because she knew nothing about the industry. She was a teenager still. So it was like, okay, yeah, all right. But I was like, yeah. So I was okay. I just kept doing it, kept practicing. I bought myself a erasable typewriter and just kept doing it, and I wind up banging out about 7 what they call scripts on speculation.
Mm-hmm.
In about a 6-week period, because I was just writing back to back, and just churning these things out as I saw them. Mm-hmm. And I actually got pretty good at it, and a couple of them got me a few meetings. I actually did an episode. I wrote a spec script for Martin when it was really popular. Mm-hmm. And this is when I started to believe her, I guess, because she was like, "This is really good. You should really try it." Okay, I will. So I did, and so happens here's where relationships come in. Everybody in the audience, relationships are very important. Mm-hmm. And things in Hollywood happen sometimes when you put that energy out there, and I was beaming with energy at the time. I was 21, 22. I didn't want to work customer service anymore. Right. I wanted to be a television writer. I made it up in my mind. I wanted to be a television writer. This is what I'm going to do. I researched the process, but I've always been the type of person to try to circumvent the process by using my God-given wits and abilities, which is not always productive. Sometimes you need to go through the process, which I'll figure out later. But, I did it, and my mother happened to live in a building right near Universal Studios at the time. One of her neighbors at the time, she didn't know this guy from Adam, but, they struck up a conversation in an elevator, and he told her that he was the first cousin of Martin, and that he works on the show, and that, and she's like, "Oh, well, my son writes," and she told him about me, and he was like, "Well, if he got something, let me see it." So I took advantage of that, and I ran with it. Right. And because, once again, I had relationships, I was able to get onto the studio a lot. And at that time, pre-terrorist stuff, it was a lot easier, to do certain things. I used to pretend I was a student at UCLA, a screenwriting student, to get scripts, just being creative, and, So,
that's a real hustle for real.
Oh, man. Let me tell you, I was going around with my toddler at the time, on my lap on the bus, going to meetings, and saying, "Please forgive me. I have my daughter, my girlfriend's still in school. She's finishing up, so, just, I'll tell her to sit down and be quiet, can we just do this, so that's what I was on. And that energy kind of reverberated out there, I'm assuming. So, long story short, I got a meeting with the executive producer of the show through that relationship with this guy. Me and him hit it off real cool. He was a DC guy, so another East Coast cat, and there were a lot of DC people, all the people from DC. So that was very helpful. Just like you and I vibe, we vibe. I have an ability to do that, and as East Coasters, that's what we do. Because we believe in relationships, we believe in community, we operate on that.
Yes.
And people don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? We walk to a different beat, and people don't understand that.
Yes.
That city, at least in the 80s, when I went back in 09, not so much anymore, but at least in the 80s and in the 90s, the energy was so palpable, you could feel it as you're
Yes.
All in the JFK, all of Wadia.
Yes.
That's how much the city reverberated with energy, and
Yes.
it was all creative.
Yes.
So we did that, man. We loved on each other in a way that, you know, we still have friends. You know, the guys I went to kindergarten with when I moved to the Bronx, I'm still friends with today.
Mm-hmm.
So you talking, and these guys have all moved on to have great lives. And, you know, we're still friends today, you know, and you can't say that,
No.
you know, about, you know, this generation, things like that. But back to my story.
Like, we could digress on that for hours.
Right. And I don't want to do that for the audience sake. But, yeah, so that's what I did. I got my hustle on, got my grind on, got a meeting with the executive producer, Martin. And he straight up told me to my face, there are people who, he said, I'm going to tell you like this, man, we have lawsuits up the butt. So make sure that this is protected. I said, I got it WGA protected, I'm good. And he was like, all right, I'm not going to make any promises, you know, the Hollywood stuff. We chatted. Nothing came out of it, but I got the meeting, and that was the important thing. He thought enough of me, the executive producer, the head guy on the television show. The EP just don't sit down with anybody.
No.
You know, I'm a cat off the street. You know, this is just, hey, this guy can write. But the guy who read the script, Sean, he really liked it, and he passed it on to the EP, and they were buddies, and that's how things happen. So nothing came out of it, but at the end of the season of that year of Martin, I realized I was ripped off on some of my material, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't upset me because he used a few of my lines and one of my storylines.
Dang.
So that gave me encouragement because I said, hey, that means I am good because they actually used a line that I had written that Tashina Arnold was to say, Pam at the time, and the storyline that they used to end the season. And I thought that was awesome. I was like, man, I'm good, you know. And at the time, my girlfriend was pregnant, and I remember watching the show, and I just jumped up and yelled and pointed at the TV. They use my ish. They use my ish. That's my ish. That's my ish. And she's, you know, about to pop. She's 8 months and about to go. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, they use my stuff. Remember that line I said, blah, blah, blah. And I showed her the script. And she was like, oh, wow. So, you know, but that gave me confidence. It actually didn't discourage me at all. So, everybody out there, you know, don't get discouraged. I just kept writing. I kept going.
Right, because that was your empowerment. It was like validation for what it is that you were doing, and it empowered you to keep going.
Absolutely. Even as a 22-year-old, you know, I said, hey, man, I could do this. So I just kept going. Yeah, I had to work the menial jobs to take care of the family, you know, but I always managed to find time to, you know, develop my craft. And that's when I started doing the reading and the learning, you know, the study. And then that's when I figured out, I made the cardinal sin that a new writer should never make in Hollywood at the time. Never write for the show that you want to write for. I wanted to be on the staff of Martin, but I needed to come with a script from Frasier or Roseanne or Fresh Prince, and I wrote specs for each one of those shows. At the time, I wrote a ton of them, and I still got them today. I got them in a binder. And, you know, so that was a cardinal mistake. But, you know, once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, once again, I didn't get discouraged. I applied for writing programs at the time. They were doing this diversity stuff with CBS and Warner Brothers. And for 3 years in a row, I was denied from all of the programs. Now, that discouraged me a little bit, but I kept writing. So I started looking at dramas. And at the time, New York Undercover was really popular. So I wrote an episode of that in the late 90s, early 2000s. As my second son came, and then my daughter came, that's when David E. Kelly was running the show with all of those dramas that he had on TV. Boston Public. There was another one that he had that was really popular. He had 3 shows on TV at the time. So I wrote an episode for Boston Public. And I just started writing a bunch of dramas, The Shield, and things like that, and writing. But then I started creating original sitcoms at that time as well, for myself, to see if I could write my own show.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And in the year 2000, I looked at my then wife at the time. I said, you know what? Technology is changing. Things are evolving. And I said, they're talking about a 500 channel world in 10 years.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is the year 2000. I told her, I looked her square in the eye. I said, I'm going to get me one of those 500 channels. I'm going to get one. And I told her that. And still haven't got it yet, but I'm almost there.
That's all right.
Yeah, but she believes in me now because, this time has passed and I put the pen down after a while. I did get discouraged. Life really took a toll on us. We moved to Arizona and things really took a dump for about 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I went about that time frame without writing a thing. I may have written a poem here or there because I was doing that as well. But yeah, I pretty much stopped. We lost our house in California during that housing crash. That family issues going on, external family issues going on that was affecting the household. So a whole bunch of stuff started happening, and I just put the pen down. So I can't do this. How can I dedicate time to writing when I got all this going on? So I had to put it down. I put it down. I didn't have to, but I did put it down for a while. And then we moved to Arizona, and this was 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beginning of 2008. At the time, I was back in school, working at the time I was working at a law firm, and I was back in school to be a paralegal. So we moved out here. I finished school back in California, and I left my family out here for a few months by themselves while I was finishing school, my last leg of school. And, myself firmly established in June of 2008 when I got my degree in paralegal studies, and then looked to, just move up in the corporate world. I was like, let me do this corporate thing. I can do it. It's not like I want to.
Like, yeah, I guess I can.
Yeah, God bless me with the ability to, be analytical and think, and I can operate in any sphere. I knew that about myself, but my heart wasn't there. So, I found myself in situations where I was like, I had to pick up my performance, I had to do certain things. And I'm like, because, my heart wasn't there. The bite to be a writer, a performer, still didn't leave me.
Mm.
It would not let go. And true story, the play that I had you read for was the first full-length script I had written since 2000, I would say 5, maybe earlier than that. And I wrote this in 2013.
Wow.
And yeah. So a lot of what you read, if you read the script, is still, I've rewritten it a couple times because I took some storylines out in and out, but a lot of what
I see it says fourth draft.
The original. I came in, I had moved a bunch of storylines around. I added a teen storyline, and I added a male storyline, and I took them both out, and I was doing certain things, and this is just the format that seemed to fit for me the best. And I was actually commissioned to write it, because at the time I was working at Chase Bank. I was out of the legal industry after being in the legal industry for about 8-9 years. Now I'm in the mortgage field, doing that, and my manager at the time was a victim of domestic violence, and which is the story of the play, and she had her own organization, and the name of the organization is the title of the play. And I was like, okay, she was asking around people she wanted to do a play to boost her organization, and I think her daughter at the time said, hey, Jermaine said he can write. We sat next to each other, at the cubicle, and just got to know the cubicle life.
Yeah.
So and which I hated. But so she told her, and she was asking me to do it, and I was like, well, yeah, all right, I didn't tell her I had been years, but I was like, well, yeah, I bet. So I did.
I want to thank Jermaine for sharing his authentic self with the Soulful Tribe. It's just wonderful to hear how he started and how he stuck to his guns and his gut to be out there in the industry, the entertainment industry, and the struggles, the hurdles that he had to overcome to make it where he wanted to be, and he's still doing it. It's a journey, and that's what I want to put out there. Everything that is of worthwhile to us and anything that we're going to be a success within is going to be a struggle, is going to be some peaks and valleys within your attaining that success. And with that, your level of perseverance and tenacity is going to be what drives you to continue on as you're being shut down, as your doors are being closed, as things are being taken away from you, as you are having conflict within your relationships at home, with your spouses, with your children. It is just one of those things that if it's what you want and you believe in yourself and you have someone that is strong on your back helping you, you know what? You put your all in it and you just keep digging and you keep digging. And I appreciate Jermaine for that and for showing his tenacity, because not only are those of us in the industry seeing it, but you know what? His family is seeing it, his kids are seeing it, and that speaks volumes to the human being that he is. So thank you, Jermaine. I appreciate you. And I appreciate the opportunity to work with you both on camera and off camera. And I look forward to many, many more. So, with that, I'm going to end this part of the episode because you know what? Like I said, we talked for hours. We talked for like 2 hours. So, this is just part one of Jermaine's Shoulders. And then we got, I think, two more parts. I think it's two more parts I broke this up to. So, there's three parts to Jermaine's story. So, just keep an ear out, and I will definitely post when the next ones come up. But I'm here every Tuesday and Friday with a new episode. So please join us and, excuse me, join me and my special guests as I have them. But if you need to reach out to me or if you have any questions about any of the guests that I've had on the show or just general questions about me, the health, your health, whatever, please feel free to reach out. My email is dc@thesoulfuleclectic.com. You can find me on Facebook. That's DC Soulful Eclectic. You can find me on Instagram, the.soulfuleclectic.com. And also, I have a special group as well, the Soulful Eclectic, which is a Facebook group too. But yeah, definitely reach out, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining myself and Jermaine as he tells his story of being his authentic self. And please feel free to share your feedback and also rate the podcast. Um, and also subscribe. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to hearing from you. Send in love and light your way. And please check on each other, your friends and family. A hello, I love you, and how are you goes a long way. Namaste.